Hello and welcome to Radio Free Nintendo. It is February 27th, 2025, and that means it is the end of February already. Or, thank God, depending on your perspective. I'm your host, James Jones, joined today by Mr. Guillaume Veillette.
Hello, hello.
Mr. John Lindemann.
Great to be here, James.
And Mr. Greg Leahy.
Ahoy, hoy, everyone.
So, this is episode, all right, don't help me, 916?
Yes.
Yay, we did it.
This one is not a palindrome, but almost. Is there a name for it, like when you spin it around and it's still the same?
Oh.
Yeah, there is.
Oh, is there really?
Yeah, there is. I can't remember what that word is, but...
Let's ask ChatGPT.
Sure, go for it.
I don't know.
It'll probably,
I don't want to.
It'll probably tell you about Horse Show Pony. So, Horse Show Pony is a palindrome. Try it. We're going to talk a little bit about the Pokemon Presents. There wasn't a ton, to be honest. We got to see this thing called Pokemon Champions, which lets you battle from your phone or your Switch. So this is moving ever so slightly closer to content on the phone. It lets you use Pokemon in your Pokemon bank as well as rental Pokemon. So it's kind of like Pokemon Arena. But
yeah, that's the way they presented it, and with the kind of the little montage of images before they kind of revealed the name and all that. It showed you people playing Pokemon Stadium, back on N64. Also showed people like linking up systems just to play multiplayer with like GBAs and stuff too. But that also, the one that tickled me, the inclusion that tickled me in that was, I think, was it called Pokemon Battle Revolution for Wii?
Yes, for Wii, yes.
It just like, oh yeah, that existed and people thought it was rubbish, right? Didn't it review like really quite poorly for that sort of thing?
Yeah, and I want to say like, one of the appeals of it was like one of the first Wii games with online play. Like there was something else with that around, like it had online play very early on the Wii's life cycle, and yeah, I want to say it reviewed not so hot.
It's just funny. It's probably with how popular Pokemon is, and indeed, the Wii was popular indeed as well, but. You just like, yeah, there probably are people with cherished memories of playing that, but it doesn't resonate that way in my head, just remembering how it was covered by the media, at least at the time.
No, but that's why Pokemon needs to buy Game Freak, to save it from the downward spiral of a 15-year-old Wii game.
The downward spiral of the end of 06, early 07. It was early, I remember that much,
yes.
But not exactly how it roughly kind of tying in with Diamond and Pearl being on DS, right? But because I think it had the legendaries from that on the box or something. But yeah, it's one of those Wii games I don't really think about that much from that early period. I didn't have it, even though I did have Pearl, but I didn't have a game like that. But I guess that's the point, though, isn't it? Really, it's just that it's been a while since they've done a dedicated game or app, however you want to look at it, for this. In this way for quite a while. It used to be kind of a staple.
Right.
You had a bunch of... They couldn't get Pokemon Stadium games out fast enough on N64.
Literally.
And then, with, like, the Colosseum stuff on the GameCube, like, it kind of kept going and kind of grew a bit more, like, of its own content in terms of, like...
XD.
Stuff like that. Single-player kind of stuff and whatnot. And then, you had that Battle Revolution game on Wii, and it just kind of seemed to stop. And then I guess maybe because once you get to like 3DS in particular, or even like the latter Pokemon DS games, maybe they felt like, with like that could dabble in polygonal graphics or whatever, it just wasn't like such a thing.
You don't need them to go online to play either. You can just go online on the device.
They had online portably. The graphics got better portably, so maybe they just kind of felt like there wasn't the utility in, but look, there's they're not just little, sprites on a Game Boy anymore. They're polygonal, they're 3D, they're real, like that. I guess that was, part of the really early kind of raison d'etre for those games, and that got, kind of outmoded pretty quickly, but they kept going for a while. But still, it's just like, like you said, they have Pokemon Bank for people to keep their Pokemon that they've accumulated from various games. That would be something logical to do with that, is have it hook into some sort of Battle Arena app that you can take them and, pit them against other people's kind of teams from wherever. Like, I'm surprised it hasn't happened sooner, really, thinking about it. I mean, I guess it's just because they're spinning so many plates over there, but yeah.
Well, and I can see Nintendo's reluctance to have a game that lets you directly battle your Pokemon on the phone. But I guess as long as you can't catch them on the phone, they're probably okay. That's where Nintendo might go like, hold on. You're not going to make us obsolete here. The other part, I guess, would be that with the, on Switch in particular, it really doesn't serve a purpose. But Greg mentioned it in passing, but for those of you who aren't old like us and don't know this, when he says like they couldn't get the Pokemon Coliseums out fast enough on the N64, he means it. The game that we have called Pokemon Coliseum in Japan is Pokemon Coliseum 2.
Stadium for N64, right? Because the Coliseum was GameCube, but the first one in Japan had a fraction of the Pokemon.
It had like a third of them.
They hadn't even modelled all of the 151 in polygons yet, and it's like, no, just ship it. Just get it out. This thing is so hot, you have to go now. I mean, God, the N64 needed help in Japan. I mean, obviously it wasn't the success that Super Nintendo was anywhere, but it was much more, the drop-off was much greater. It was much more dire in Japan, specifically.
Yes.
Meanwhile, Pokemon obviously hit first in Japan and hit hardest in some ways.
It was on fire.
It was just like, go, ship it, get it out the door.
And in the case of... our numbering is one off theirs for the Stadium games. So their 2 is our 1, and our 2 is their 3. So the gold and silver one. They did have everything in for gold and silver. They didn't release a half-assed gold and silver one. Presumably because they're just like, keep going. Just keep making them. But this actually kind of goes back to what we heard from the Pokemon Company a while ago, where they're like, we're busy modeling all these fucking Pokemon now because there's so many more now. But yeah, that's sort of the lead on that one. Let's see, what else did they have? We got more updates on the Pokemon trading card game, mobile app. They're going to have some new stuff in there. That's the Pocket mobile app. I think there's 2. More events in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, as you'd expect. More characters in Pokemon Masters EX. I still can't believe they called that game Pokemon Master Sex. They have made the logo so it's less obvious that it's Pokemon Master Sex, but why?
Can you really master it without? Can you really master it with only 4 moves?
I mean, it depends on how good those moves are. Motion of the Ocean, man.
That's right.
I just can't fathom how anyone looking at that thing's name knew they were going to call it Pokemon Masters, and they're like, we should put EX at the end. That'll be fine. It's like, come on. It's just so stupid. But you know what? I'm not responsible for that. The episode will be called The Motion of the Ocean, though. I mean, that's probably where we're headed. And then, I mean, it was kind of a light news. There was some like Pokemon Unite stuff. They introduced, as Donald puts it, the Pokemon trading card game is reintroducing Mega Evolutions for scalpers to fight over later this year with Lucario and Gardevoir's Mega Forms.
Yeah, that was, you kind of felt like that was going to be likely, that this is a feature that would be kind of pushing across the various tendrils of the Pokemon business, because when they first showed Pokemon Legends Z2A or whatever, they because it's in the region of the generation of Pokemon games that went with that region that had like the Mega Evolution at first.
Yes.
And like it had the Mega Evolution like symbol like that, because there was very little to that first teaser last year. So it was just virtually all it kind of gave was like it's in that region. There's some sort of something's happening to Lumio City, it's getting like developed or something, and here's the Mega Evolution symbol. So it kind of made sense that when we got to the year that it's going to be the Z2A is actually going to be coming out, there's like, yeah, let's push that concept again and, where we can. So yeah, pretty predictable.
Yeah. Now, to Donald's point, given the current state of trying to buy Pokemon cards, good luck, everybody. But beyond that, the Latin American Spanish is coming to Pokemon games coming forward. And then, yeah, it was the Pokemon Z to A, Z to A. I don't know. Did they actually say it?
I think they did, but of course, the chap, the executive from the Latin American branch said Z to A, but then like the regular voiceover said Z to A. So it's fine. Just however you say it in your neck of the woods, just go with that.
Cool, great. So yeah, we got to see a lot more of that because, as Greg pointed out, it was last year. It was just like some blueprints, and then I think Pokemon noises. And that was it. That was what we got. So it's another Legends game, as the name pretty much already told us. It seems like it plays largely like the Legends game, although Greg, you pointed out before we started recording that the combat is more real time oriented. The battling.
That's what it suggested. Yeah, just like, okay, we've got like more like area of effect things where it's like position matters and the way it's playing out is more real time. So almost it's somewhere between where you already were with Legends and more like kind of a Xenoblade type of thing. That'd be my frame of reference anyway, for those things where you're kind of issuing commands from a menu, but it's playing out like that. All this stuff is kind of happening, and where you're standing is matters relative to issuing those commands and things like that. But I'm sure, they will have to see exactly how it kind of functions when we get to it. But yeah, it definitely seems like you already had a bit of a sort of break from Pokemon orthodoxy with the combat and stuff in the first Legends, but it does seem like it's taking that quite a bit further now.
Yeah, like the story battles more or less felt Pokemon like in those games. It was the catching mechanics that were so different.
Yeah, exactly. And like sometimes where you could get into like these like, kind of wild, like where like, there's like a whole bunch of like swarm almost of Pokemon kind of get it, where he was in those like dimensional rifts or whatever they were, and there was just loads of them everywhere and stuff like, and there was kind of reminded me a little bit of that, but yeah, this does seem to be like a substantial change, both from Legends and just Pokemon in general. So it's kind of interesting that, they've pushed, I guess it's some of the value of having this kind of established sub-series of Legends blank, is that you could take the gameplay places where maybe they wouldn't be comfortable taking like mainline Pokemon. We've kind of seen this in the past with, Dragon Quest, a series to which Pokemon owes quite a lot, I think it's fair to say, where, stuff like Dragon Quest 9, when there was, the prospect that it would be more of an action RPG and all, there was a lot of pushback, and then they kind of ended up backing down, and the Dragon Quest 9 that came out was a lot more traditional, like, with something like Pokemon, which has, very similar enduring appeal in Japan, that, it may be, safer to push stuff like, to push these sorts of more action elements, more real-time elements, innovations, experiments in a sub-series. But also it's not just like some spin-off that's like completely out of the blue. You've kind of already established it as something that's, rooted in the traditions, but doing somewhat of his own thing, and now you're taking it a bit further. So, we have to see how well it works out on a number of levels, both just, how it feels to play for, the individual, and then how well it's kind of received by the fan base at large. But, I think it's for Pokemon, understandably so, gets a lot of, criticism, or sometimes just kind of general smack talked for being too stuck in its ways. So again, you got to acknowledge when they're trying something different.
Yeah, the actual wild Pokemon are in quote wild zones in the middle of Lumiose City. You can still capture without going into battle. And trainers will be They should actually show the trainer dodging in the fight. But yeah, you can also have your Pokemon dodge attacks. I am getting into opinion space now. I didn't get to see the deep dive trailer. I just watched the normal trailer, which confirmed it was a 2015 game, which they said last year. So that really wasn't. They're like,
but there was one thing on that front in that they specified late 2025.
Oh, yeah. I just assumed that, but yeah, you're right.
Yeah, oh, sure. No, I know what you mean. That's probably what a lot of us would have expected anyway, but it's kind of notable because they had not said that before. It was only, with that and Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, it was just 25. There was no mention of a part of 25, but that really does now lock that in, I think, as being post-Switch 2.
Yeah,
in all likelihood. Not that we know when Switch 2 is going to come out yet. That's obviously at the beginning of April, but when they'll tell us. But I think it's very, very likely now that this will be after Switch 2, which, again, not a big surprise. We've seen Pokemon games will come out, major ones, after a system transition has begun. I mean, we were talking recently about Pokemon, with the closing music, like last week, Pokemon Black and White. That was before the global simultaneous launch era of Pokemon, but for America and Europe, that came out at right around the same time as the 3DS came out, and then of course you had Pokemon Black 2 and White 2 after that, right. And then if you think of 3DS, you had was it the Sun and Moon kind of sequels? They came out, Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, I think they were called. That was after the Switch had come out, so again. Plenty of precedent, kind of expected it, but it was news.
And Sun and Moon was right after the Switch was unveiled, which is
there would have been the kind of the rooftop party thing would have been in the sort of late summer of that year, and then Pokemon came a couple of months later or whatever, having been the summer of Pokemon Go and the all the craze surrounding that.
I want to say
and the anniversary as well, which is the other thing that kind of. You wouldn't have picked this to be the most packed Pokemon Day presentation because you really kind of feel like they're probably going to try and recreate as much as they can, a bigger kind of blowout for the 30th anniversary year next year.
Yeah. The other thing that they said it. They've been saying all along. You're wandering around Lumiose City, where a city being rebuilt so Pokemon and people can live side by side, which I've seen what Pokemon are capable of. That seems like a terrible idea. There are Pokemon who could destroy that city. It seems like a very bad idea, very poorly thought out. But I really feel like this game loses something from setting it in this developed, urban, antithetical to exploration environment. What are you actually going to gain from the whole idea of Pokemon Legends Arceus is they're in this new land, that the people there are settling this new land. They don't know what Pokemon are out there, and your job is to go, 1, explore that land and map it, and 2, learn about the Pokemon that live there. And it felt coherent. Whereas, what you're gonna go learn about the Pokemon that live in this city that has a Pokemon citizen registration or bullshit?
It feels like if in Xenoblade Chronicles X, if you were only in New LA and that's it.
Yeah. Whereas, like, anytime I'm in New LA, my immediate thought is, how can I get out of New LA?
Yeah, exactly.
It's also, very, very much your job to get out of there.
Really. Also, when I'm in old LA, all I can think about is how the hell can I get out of LA? So it's accurate. Yeah, the dramatic moment when you realize you can fly your scale over the top of the wall and it really is all one world isn't exciting because you realize, oh my god, it really was always all connected, huh? It's because you get to leave New LA whenever you want now. You can just go. You can just go anywhere that's not here. It's just, I don't know, it just feels like it's less interesting to me. Like, I actually enjoyed that game because it, like, for all of its flaws, and God knows it had flaws. Like, that game is deeply flawed. Legends of Arceus, to be specific. It looks visually incomplete. Is the phrase I would use. Like, placeholder textures.
Yeah.
Maybe less than placeholder textures.
No, well, that's the thing, is that, I mean, I agree with you in a lot of ways. I think there was something nicely kind of thematically coherent, you know, about like the simultaneous kind of mapping of the geography, but also the kind of Pokemon population of this place, and the idea of kind of going back to an earlier time when, you know, like things were different in terms of how people related to Pokemon, and that's kind of why the game mechanics were different and stuff. Like, that all kind of knitted together quite well, and it was a quite satisfying single player experience, and it had to be because it, you know, it didn't have like a multiplayer element or anything. But, you know, I guess that you kind of touched on it a little bit with some of those woes with the visuals and stuff. You do wonder whether they look back on it and say, we bit off more than we could chew. Like, that is having to build this expansive place and that's supposed to feel like it's not settled, it's not developed, it's natural, it's organic, and then all the art design that has to go into that to make it feel legit, you know, to make it feel immersive and all that kind of stuff. Again, you know, if you didn't have an appreciation for the stuff that Monolith has done on Xenoblade games, you know, and how that bleeds into what Nintendo has done with Zelda, you know, like, if Arceus should really give you that appreciation.
Yeah.
It's like, this is what happens when you try and do something, you know, not exactly the same by any means in terms of scope and everything, but there's some similarity, and you don't really have what you need to do it. And so you kind of, you know, one option might be to, you know, kind of, take a bit longer and dedicate more resources and prioritize, hey, let's do it, you know, right the next time. But it's do a similar concept. They seem to have gone a different way. So let's rein the concept in a bit, you know, and change it. And as I understand it, I mean, I didn't play the XY generation, but it's literally like follows on from the story of those games in some fashion. So, you know, yeah, it's very much like, yeah, the Pokemon of this place are pretty well understood by from the games that already happened there, if nothing else and stuff. So yeah, we won't be able to trade off that concept. I don't know how far they can take this whole thing of like, okay, so the place is being redeveloped for, you know, Pokemon cohabitation and how interesting that is. I do kind of think it's interesting, but Pat, there could be some cool stuff in terms of the different kind of environmental traversal that you've got from an urban environment, almost some sort of like Pokemon Batman shit to like get the drop on where certain Pokemon species are and then plonk them in the face with a Pokeball. I think that could be quite fun if they execute it right.
Yeah, I guess I just don't trust them to make that possible, but we'll see. I like, part of the appeal of that game were the different biomes that you got to explore in a it was very Monster Hunter-y in how it did it, where it was like, there's a hub and there's lots of biomes, but you just can't just sort of explore the world freely.
Yeah, it was more towards like older school Monster Hunter than it was truly like a Zelda or Xenoblade of recent times.
Right. Particularly not like Xenoblade X, where it's just like, no, it is really just one big space. You figure it out. But it was also really fun. Like, the jank was part of the appeal, I think. But I mean, you can only introduce that jank one time. Like, so seeing it again now, I might not have the same positive outlook towards weird shit that it does and stuff that doesn't work right. But I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. There's something that's just not particularly appealing about rolling around in like cyber future Paris. Like, it just doesn't really strike me as that interesting. But also the concept is dumb. Like, we're gonna rebuild the city so you can. Okay, I've got a Wailord. Where can I go? Nowhere. Okay. Well, then you didn't succeed. I'm gonna unleash my Wailord in this cafe, which is another name for the title. And just wreck the whole building, which is accurate, by the way. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how this game turns out, but it did have the problem of, all right, it's not the first time they've done this now. That novelty's gone. I guess they did need to make something more polished than Arceus, which is decidedly not polished. Aggressively unpolished.
And one peculiar thing that I noticed, again, you've got a choice of 3 starters from the past, to kick you off. But, like, with Arceus, they were each from a different generation of Pokemon games.
Yes.
Whereas here, I think you had 2 from the same one, but only 2. Because it was like, was it Totodile, Chikorita, but then Tepig, Tepig. Just from a much later generation.
Much later. Very weird. I don't know. I don't know why they did that. That strikes me as like a weird diversion. That maybe
you just would have thought you'd stick to the same model as last time, right? Just have one from each generation, and that way maybe it might invite more different types of players from the Pokemon sort of fan history, if you like, because it's like, well, for a lot of people, and not exclusively, obviously, but for a lot of people, like, their favourite Pokemon generation is going to be the first one they played, right? And so it's kind of nice to have, if you have 3 different starters, each from a different generation, then it's more likely that, a particular player is going to say, oh yeah, I that was my starter from my first Pokemon game, and because I got in with Gold and Silver or whatever. But to have 2 from Gold and Silver, it just feels like you're limiting how many of those kind of bases you're covering. I don't get it, but yeah.
I wonder if this was.
I'm sure they've got like painfully just massive market research to support the decision they've made. It would be extremely naive of me to think the Pokemon company is capable of anything less than that. But still,
that was what I was about to say. I wonder if this just got focus grouped to death, and that was what they landed on. And so that was how we ended up with this particular collection. But sure. Anything else?
No, I think that back covers it, doesn't it? Like I said, it wasn't the most voluminous, not that we was expecting anything different.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so we're going to go, so we asked y'all for retroactive recommendations. We said it didn't have to be a Switch game, but we said if you were going to do a Switch game, it had to be from 2017. 2 of you did not get that message. One of you saw that you did not get that message and then sent a follow-up email going, I just hit the end of the episode, never mind. So respect. The other one got the message, said in the email, I know this game is from 2018, but, and here's the thing. This is exactly the behavior I said last week that our listeners would do. And he had already done it at that point, so he wasn't copying what I said. I was right. I'm not going to indulge it, because we said it had to be a 2017 game. That was the only fucking rule, was that it had to be a 2017 game. For fuck's sake. So I've got the list in front of me. We're not going to settle it right now. I think we're probably just going to figure it out on our own. But I actually went and pulled it all, so these guys could just kind of hear it. You could stop me if there's anything you want to comment on. We did get one very curious email that was a series of anti-votes, which I thought was very funny. Not that this is an election, But we got one person who anti-voted for Sonic Mania, Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and Vroom in the Night Sky, which is the only person to mention Vroom in the Night Sky. Which I assumed they thought somebody was going to send it to us as a meme, and nobody did, because that shit's old. Snake Pass, Blossom Tales, Heart and Slash, Kamiko, Fast RMX, The Mummy Demastered, Mr. Shifty, Stardew Valley, ARMS, Super Mario Odyssey, SteamWorld Dig 2, Sonic Mania, Wonder Boy and the Dragon's Trap, Shovel Knight Spectre of Torment, which is the third add-on, I think.
I believe so, yeah.
Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle, I Am Setsuna, Golf Story. Oh, Golf Story was also an anti-vote for them. Sorry, I forgot that one. And Cat Quest. So, if you've already looked, please refrain. But does anybody want to take a guess which one of those games got the most recommendations?
Yeah, I wouldn't say I've got the confident I've seen each and every instance, but I think SteamWorld Dig 2 seemed like it came up the most to me.
SteamWorld Dig did come up multiple times.
Cat Quest might get some votes, I think.
Cat Quest only got one.
Only one.
All right.
So SteamWorld Dig got 3. Yeah, 3. I
got 4, unless there was like one of those anti-votes you said, or
I didn't count any votes. I ignored those.
Okay, so yeah, no, it got 4.
Where's the fourth one?
Mihaly, Joseph, Lemonade, and Reg McFly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Maybe I just sent Reg McFly into the abyss for also nominating a 2018 game. Like you lose you lose your voice at that point.
I would guess Snake Pass would be the second.
You're correct. So Snake Pass also has 4, which I'm stunned by. Like legitimately was shocked with all of the Snake Pass nominations.
Well, it was like probably the most good-looking game
that's true.
That came out early on, and people were hankering for...
It was the first UE4 game, I believe.
Right. Yeah, I think someone said so. Spencer said so in their email. But
I wasn't bothering to read. I was just looking for names and just pasted them in. I had to go.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I've never played it. I'd be open. Like I've been curious about it, but
Snake Pass curious. Yeah.
Sure.
Yep. Other repeat nominees: Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle got 3. Wonder Boy the Dragon's Trap got 2. I Am Setsuna got 2. Golf Story got 2. But again, Golf Story also got an anti-vote. Not that I counted those. I just thought that was very funny. It's like somebody's like, I think that was the first one to like, do not Golf Story. And I'm like, whoa. All right. If you say so.
I wish I could say I on purpose counted those anti-votes as votes, but it's really that I wasn't looking at the content of the emails, and I was just looking at the titles.
Oh, so you might just drop votes in for them?
Yeah. Yeah, this is not a screw you to the anti-votes. It's just like, well, don't mention the games you don't want to show up in the list.
Oh, so in Guillaume's parallel reality, Vroom in the Night Sky got one's very sick in the head vote.
I didn't even see that email, I guess, because I didn't write it down.
Okay.
Maybe, yeah.
There is
I did selective editing as I was making the list.
Okay. I was surprised Odyssey didn't get more. I was expecting Odyssey to get a bunch, to be honest.
And maybe it's one of those of his themes that is almost too obvious. You know,
yeah.
It's like, well, somebody else will suggest that, or you almost don't need suggesting. It's just like it's the, 3D Mario game on the entire system, and it came out, that year.
And we could do it whenever. That's the other thing about that one. Like, it doesn't have to be tied to anything for us to go, oh, a 3D Mario game. Let's do that.
Mm-hmm.
Did I mention that ARMS got multiple? I can't remember if I mentioned that.
I don't think you mentioned it.
Okay. It's so short it doesn't stick out as far as the other ones for the multi-vote indicator. Did we mention ARMS on the show? Because I know we talked about it. I just can't remember if we talked about it live or if we talked about it off the air.
I mean, I'm sure we talked about it on the show. I got it from the library at least once.
In the context of the Retroactive.
As a potential candidate, before we would have received anything from the listeners. That was probably mostly off air, I think.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So I was kind of surprised they landed at that one too, but I get it. It's weird.
I think the thing about that compared to perhaps even something like Mario Odyssey, is maybe it's got more of that time capsule almost element in terms of, people, so it sold like over 2 million copies or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like no one bought it and played it.
Back before we didn't realize that wouldn't be impressive on Switch.
Yeah, exactly. But still, it still, kind of compares relatively favourably with games that you could say are like somewhat similar, like some of the Mario Sports games, like the less successful one. They're in that kind of ballpark and stuff, so it's like, no, and especially, of course, that came out at a time when the Switch install base was basically at its smallest, but also with a bunch of people that are really hungry for games. So that kind of, cuts both ways a little bit, but still, it's not like nobody played it, and it was just like, very much like people got it and they played it at that time when the Switch was new, between Mario Kart and Splatoon 2.
Right.
And then it was, kind of got left in the past a little bit. And so even though there were updates for quite a while, they did add characters and stuff. It's not like they dropped it flat after launch at all. But, there's that feeling of like, it's a moment in time, more so than some of these other games where, people might kept playing Splatoon 2 for years. They kept updating that for like 2 years. It's 1 year with like more substantial stuff, and then like another year of just like events and Splatfest. But still, you get, the Octo expansion, stuff like that. So and then like Odyssey is like the 3D Mario game for this entire generation. Yeah, we've had 3D World come back, and you've got Bowser's Fury and that, and you've had the side-scrolling stuff, but it's like basically it was like the Mario game of the Switch, and so that has a kind of a bit more of a lasting impact, doesn't it? So, if you're looking for something that kind of encapsulates a particular moment in time of those first few, and of course, that's doubly, well, God knows how many times true of Mario Kart 8, which is, is the forever game. So, whereas ARMS is the opposite. It's like very much middle of 2017 and only that.
Right. It's literally like a 3-month window of ARMS. And maybe a little bit when Min Min got added to Smash. Like maybe there was a little.
That's true. Yeah, there was that. That was must have got a bit of a bump of awareness and people giving it a try.
I want to say they put it on sale at that point too. Now I want to go buy a Min Min amiibo because I just find that character's design really really fun, but also she has the Guy Eldoon from Ace Attorney. His hat is a bowl and his hair is noodles.
The noodle bowl on the head, yeah.
but also with the noodle hair.
Yes. No, exactly. To go with it. I don't have it, but apparently it's meant to be, really quite an impressive amiibo in terms of how it recreates all the different textures. Because you've got the dragon arm, and then you got the other arm, and
she's got some parts of her are shiny, some parts of her aren't.
How far they came basically from the beginning where they were, and
she's not
so hard.
So she's in the post piss stand, but we still haven't figured it out era. So rather than it being just like a random pillar of yellow, it's like a dust cloud from action between her legs holding her up. It looks bad, but not as bad, if that makes sense.
Yeah. You still get sometimes where it's just like, at this point, you definitely know, what kind of, a particular piece of like concept art is going to get turned into an amiibo. So there's no excuse. They're not looking weird, but it depends how wedded you are to a particular pose, I guess.
We started getting a lot more neutral stances, which I assume is part of it. Like she's in this weird one leg's bent, the other leg's fully extended half squat with her arm out, with both her arms out. Whereas by the time you get to like Kazuya and Sephiroth, they're like standing, maybe leaning on one leg. It's like, okay, or Byleth is just pure neutral stance. Even well, no, because Pyra and Mithra have stands. Because they're in like a weird hip out stance, so they needed it. But yeah, it's the little spike attack she has. Okay. All right. Well, I just bought it. There we go. That's my day. I now have the Min Min amiibo.
There you go. Purchase happening in real time on RFN.
I mean, I only have 6. Like, it's not like I've got a big collection. I just always liked that one, and for whatever reason, never bought it when I saw it on store shelves.
No, well, we talked about this where we did the sort of retrospective for Amiibo in general, and it's just like the unlikely ones always feel kind of more fun to me.
Oh, yeah.
Where it's like, yeah, well, just for ARMS to have a representative, and it's not like one of the two that seem like they're the ostensible main characters. You know, like Min Min, it was some sort of popularity contest, right? How Min Min ended up as the character, but you know, definitely was it Ribbon Girl and who's the other guy? He's an assist trophy in Smash.
The one that's the goo.
It's like no. That he is an assist trophy, and he is definitely not the ostensible main character.
Yeah, the superhero guy.
Yeah, you know, like that, that's like the, you know, the Ryu, like, the sort of standard, you know, the usual, like, there's somebody in a fighting game that is, like, ostensibly the main character, and that's Captain not Blando. Yeah, and I mean, that's not what the you had in this case. Springman, thank you, bloody hell.
Might as well be called Captain Blando.
Yeah, it's true though, isn't it? A lot of those characters, I mean, they're almost deliberately the most bland. Because it's like they're meant to be, you know, it's kind of like, I don't know, Link being like an every person character, right? Like everybody could kind of just map themselves onto him, and, you know, it's kind of just a sort of avatar for the player. Like, and then the more interesting characters, you know, your Blankas and, you know, your Zangief and all that, well, they don't, you know, they're like down the list of like who and then when it comes to like crossover games, they're less likely to get in. And that is kind of a shame, I think, a lot of the time. So I thought it was cool that Min Min got in.
I wanted Headlock now that I see it. I forgot about Headlock. I want to say that's a character they added later that's just like a giant fucking head. This game is really
weird.
This game is really weird.
That was the boss, I think, right?
Yeah. And then there was like evil Springman they added.
There was the Max Brass. There was like one of the boss. And there was like the evil scientist as well. I think that was another boss that was added later and became an added character for people to play as. So yeah, they updated it. It's not like they abandoned it straight away, but
the fucking clown they added.
Lola Pop.
Like, I've never been the kind of person who's like, clowns, but no, that was the one where I'm like, clowns, yeah, no, do not like, Jesus, yeah, okay, I need to get this off my screen. A Lollapop amiibo would have sold negative units, or it would have just sold units to sickos. Update on Amiibo Daisy. My local Target, according to their website, has like 27 of them. What the fuck did they make so many daisies?
Because that was a bit later. Well, that was after the sort of Animal Crossing faux pas, right? You know, because that was the
because the Animal Crossing was doing, yeah.
That was just the worst timing as well, wasn't it? Because it was like, you know, if they tried some ambitious Animal Crossing, you know, amiibo suite later, they might have sold a lot more of them. But because everything was at such a low ebb, because they hadn't actually had a main game for quite a number of years at that point, and they were just doing the spin-offs, like they made way too many, and they were clogging up clearance for ages. But Daisy, I don't know how you get there.
No, But they also have a bunch of the wedding set for whatever reason, for no reason.
Yeah, that's got to be on a reprint as well, right? That's got to be a subsequent run. So they just reprinted too many. I mean, that
could be it.
It's got to be that, and I guess it's a bit because again, I mean, the game that it tied into by the time they were reprinting it was like 6 years old. Odyssey probably by the time they did a rerun of the wedding set. So
yeah, probably
it was kind of I guess it was always a bit of a risk.
I do like that if that on Amazon Min Min is listed as an accessory for Nintendo Wii U. It's just like, well, not really.
I guess it's kind of true.
I mean, sort of.
I mean, it will scan Amiibo, and presumably some of those things, those games where you just get something for like any Amiibo, like you get, I don't know, some bit of food in Wii U Breath of the Wild or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know, but I don't. So we'll figure out which one we want to do, and we might submit our own. I didn't see any. Like I was going through the list, and then I went and look at the list of 2017 games. I didn't see anything that jumped right out at me as like that. That y'all missed that, but it's entirely.
I'd say that's broadly similar to how I felt about it. A lot of stuff I kind of expected to see. A few things that I was reminded of. Like I mean, Snake Pass. I didn't play it, but I do remember reading quite a lot about it. People did play that, quite a bit back then, for instance. But I guess the one thing that I was a tiny bit surprised. This is like some huge game or whatever, but Blastmaster Zero. That was like simultaneous 3DS and Switch, I think.
Yeah, it was. I thought somebody recommended that. Maybe I just missed it in my email.
Maybe I just missed that.
I might have missed it in my email.
I kind of felt like that would be something that would in the same vein.
Let me go back and make sure. Let me go back and make sure I didn't like screw this up.
I didn't see it either.
Okay, maybe somebody mentioned it to me in Discord. That seems quite possible that somebody would have, because I know somebody pinged me on Discord and I'm like, you have to send them to the inbox. like, no, I'm not going to take them here. They must go to the inbox. I marked Min Min as a gift because it's a gift to myself. So besides that,
treat yourself, James.
Yeah,
treat yourself.
I'm treating myself to a Min Min amiibo. Which is a game I don't even have, but maybe I will. But maybe next time we meet, I will. Who can say? And if we do, I'm gonna get the Min Min amiibo on Sunday, so I'll be prepared. So next week we'll tell y'all what game we're gonna play, and we're probably gonna start playing it right away, because we want to get it in before the big. Honestly, I'd like to get the direct in before Xenoblade X comes out, but if it's like the week Xenoblade X comes out, whatever. But once Xenoblade X comes out, I'm done. Like, I'm done. It's like, they keep showing new content. And I'm like, that looks really cool. Fuck. That looks really cool. And it's like, part of me's like, yay, that looks really cool. And part of me's like, God damn it, I'm gonna play this whole fucking game front to back again, aren't I? We have another, Chlorian. That cool mech they showed. Like, that's hers. This is Celica, who you only ever meet when she's being very upbeat and having a cool song and having a weird, like, giant rideable friend. I don't even know I can't remember what his name is. But now there's two of them. And she stands weird because I think they were trying to make her look appealing, but she's just doing the Hatsune Miku stance. It's weird. The other thing that's happened is because the Xenoblade X community is particularly, like, fucked in the head. They've gone through every single piece of media that comes out in every language, and they figured out names of characters before the Western Nintendo outlets announced them. But also they've gone and, like, the faces have been changed, which is true. They have been. Like Irina, who had, like, extreme, like, just always looked angry. They softened her face, and there's a couple other characters they've very clearly, like, tried to make them look more appealing. I don't mean that, like, in the, like, attractiveness standpoint, but, like, more approachable or look more nice or happy, which is kind of a fucked thing when you think about the premise of that game.
No, they should just look like completely exhausted and just hollowed out all the time. I think it's like the very first proper, like, post-pilot episode of the Battlestar Galactica series from the Aughts, where the Cylons are attacking at a set interval, and they're all just fucking exhausted. They should just look like that.
Yeah, just be like, I can't stand this shit anymore.
But it's not really that appealing, as you've already suggested.
No. Lau has to look pretty. Why? Well, because we want him to be appealing. But why? Because we want to sell shit. I like how much of this stuff was apparently like unused content in the Xenoblade X art book. Like, oh, this is stuff we didn't get a chance to use. But not all of it. Some of this is new. And also there's going to be new music. And these cowards, these absolute fucking cowards at Nintendo, did not re-add the chest slider they so brazenly removed from the Western release on Wii U. But even more cowardly, did add a volume slider so you can make it so the background music doesn't drown out the spoken dialogue. Is this even Xenoblade anymore? If I can hear what my characters are saying to each other in an important story scene, instead of, oh, yeah, in the background covering everything up. I love this.
What if I said to you that was actually kind of trade that was made, and there's going to be there's a Kid Icarus Uprising remaster, and that's been made so that you can't adjust the music down, and it does drown out the dialogue.
I would rather
on purpose.
I would rather just have my C button for that game's release.
The C button.
And it's just going to be I'm not going to say that. That would be too far. Castigate. And anytime one of the characters starts going off on their fucking bullshit that they're rambling about, you can press that, and Pit just goes, listen, you fuck, I don't care. And then they just shut up and have their feelings hurt. And, like, honestly, it would be the best button. But you could also use that in online play, because we're not going to have microphones, because it's a Nintendo system. The microphone is built into your personal phone. But if you're playing online in Splatoon 5, which is realistically something that could happen on Switch 2 at our current pace.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And these absolute idiots won't go get the salmon roe. They're busy just fucking around. You can press it, and it will in context, because it's C stands for contextual castigation. Your squid will make squid noises, but at the bottom of the screen, it will helpfully translate all the expletives you just threw at them about not picking up the salmon roe.
It would translate them as this way or booyah. That's what it currently does.
This just translates them as this way, comma, you fuckwit.
By this way, I mean, get back and defend the base, you absolute bastard.
But see, now it'll actually say that. Which, honestly, like, if a contextually smart game that uses AI to figure out what castigation is appropriate at this moment in time. And it works in single-player games, too, so if you're just playing, like, I don't know, I was going to say a new Ace Attorney game, but that seems unlikely. If you're playing the next Zelda game and Link's having to listen to Zelda do whatever dumb idea she has this time about crawling into a cave that everyone says is cursed, you can just press a button and be like, listen, goddammit, this is the third time we've done this. It never works. You always make things worse. Can we just stop? Can we just stop? And then the game will correctly respond and she'll just look hurt. And then Link just leaves. It's the perfect button. It's the perfect, I need the plot to end here button. And that's the new revolutionary feature of Switch 2, is that the games can dynamically be ended by the main character just being like, nope, had enough of this shit.
So it has basically a turn off the anime bullshit button?
It's turn off whatever bullshit. It could be, when we get, I was going to say, oh God, I can't remember his name, with Ivan the Terrible.
Oh God, Devil's bloody third.
when we get Devil's fourth.
Devil's fourth, yeah.
And you press the button.
Devil goes forth, in which he's sent over the top
there
in World War
go.
One.
Yes. and somebody's talking about carrying hand grenades in their abdomen, which is a thing that happens in the plot of that game. Not on their abdomen, in. The character's name is C4, just in case you're curious. Spoilers for that, I guess. You could just press a button and Tomonobu Itagaki comes up on screen and you could just yell at him.
So, wait a minute, you're telling me we've done this many bits about the C button and no one has said the C4 button yet?
Well, I just did.
That's what I think that was the fun. As you were saying it, it's like, this is the first time we've got here, isn't it? Okay.
Well, it's just like, that's the thing also, too. It's like we've never called it the Charles button for the Charles Bronson either, so.
That's
call him Bronson.
Every time you press that, a robot somewhere in the world kills a punk.
Mm-hmm.
It's the we're gonna bring crime down one button press at a time, and there's just a tracker at the bottom of the screen how many times the button's been pressed worldwide.
Yeah, it just says, "Do you believe in Jesus?"
I want that to come out of an otherwise unused and not visible speaker on the Switch too.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's like, wait, the Joy-Con has...
Now we're just back to it being the Christ button.
Wait, the Joy-Con has speakers only in this one context. Otherwise, they are not used. Huh. Okay. I mean, did we ever make a joke about it being the cube button for Ice Cube Simulator? It's just like, now it feels like there's 10 cubes in here.
Yeah, I think what you were describing, sounds like the curtail button.
There we go. I've had enough of this shit. You press that button so many times, Skip
the end.
Like, all right, we're going to go investigate. No, we're not going to go investigate this. They're dead. They're dead. There's no point in investigating it. They're dead. Just skip it. Skip it. Like, we all know what happened. There's no point in dealing with, nope, we're going to go. Okay. All right. Well, fuck you too then. And then everybody just is sad because you press it. Like, what if you could press it when you get hit by a blue shell? And Donkey Kong just starts swearing. And I don't know who's going to voice him swearing. Seth Rogen, I guess. Fuck it. He's available. It's not 2008 anymore. He's very available. Cool. Like I said, we'll give y'all an update on the Retroactive next week. And we'll probably get started soon thereafter. But I think we're going to take a break here. We're going to come back. We're going to do a little bit of a mixed segment. We're going to do maybe a couple listener mail because we've been slacking on that front. And Guillaume's got a little bit of new business. We'll get that in there too if we can. So go ahead and take a break with us. Although your break's much shorter than ours is going to be. But take a break with us and get your focus back for a exciting second act of Radio Free Nintendo. We are back. I did a different intro, but then do the same or outro. Then do the same intro. I gotta do better. I need to do better. So I'm gonna take a second stab at it right now. Welcome back to Radio Free Nintendo. I'm James Jones. I'm here to introduce the listener mail segment. See, that's different. It's got a different vibe to it. It feels a little bit more chill, a little more calm, a little bit more like you're coming back from a commercial, although we don't have ads. We will sell out, just as a reminder to any potential advertisers. We will sell out. We will sell out so hard. We will sell out the hardest way possible. But we'll keep working on it. I'm gonna go ahead and read the first email. Emails. Where do you send them? Well, you send them to rfn@nintendoworldreport.com. That's rfn@nintendoworldreport. You can also send your leftover Min amiibo, I suppose, since I'm just gonna start collecting them apparently. I like the idea that I'm going to start collecting amiibo in 2025. That's a very stupid bit that I think would be funny. We're not. I'm not going to go buy 26 Daisy amiibos and say I've got a full set. We're not doing that. Anyway, GX writes, Dear RFN crew, I've got kart racing games on my mind right now, so here we go. It's been over a decade since we've had an entirely new Mario Kart game. Mario Kart 8 and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe are very poorly numbered. Sorry, that was editorial. Very good, but the series feel like it needs something to help freshen it up. Though the long-running answer has been, quote, just make Smash Kart, end quote, what else would you want to see structurally from a new entry in the series? Would you want to see something interesting with the vehicles? What about scope? Any sort of single-player content? Peace. So there's going to be a Mario Kart 9. We know that. We've seen images of it, although they might call it Mario Kart 13. Fuck it, who cares? There will be another Mario Kart. We have seen that. With Big Donkey Kong. But not much else. So, what do you want to see in the next... What do you think the Mario Kart franchise could benefit from adding? Because, I mean, legitimately, I feel pretty confident they could just put out another Mario Kart that is better, just sort of all around better, like a more polished game than the current one. And it would be a financial success because I don't make pie charts that are not backed up in reality. But I just wonder, like, what do they, let's say for the sake of argument, Nintendo believes they need to push the boundary of the franchise, or they need to at least change the value proposition of the game. So it's not just Mario Kart 8.2. Where do you think the options are? Because I'm actually really struggling with this one.
Sure, yeah, man, it makes sense considering, as we already know, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is a game that had an awful lot grafted onto it from its original incarnation. So it's easy to feel like, well, they kind of ended up expanding that a lot. So what's left to kind of do? I do think there's a couple of things. First of all, yeah, other than DK's design revision, the main thing that seemed like it was being kind of hinted at in the footage is the possibility of a greater maximum for the number of players, a number of racers in a particular race may be going up, maybe only for certain modes. Obviously, we don't know anything yet. So that's something, I guess, maybe it could help to provide more variety for certain online modes or indeed offline ones, things like that. So, and it's kind of an easy enough numerical expansion. We'll see. I mean, it's one thing to think of, having more people and more craziness and stuff, but, how well's that balance out? How much do you have to kind of tweak how the availability of items and how much carnage is going on? Do you want more? Do you want less? Do you have different modes maybe to kind of, that's it's one thing to just generally think, we could have more simultaneous participants, but how you actually kind of bring that forward into like the experience and what it's actually going to deliver in terms of like, okay, is this going to be, are you going to maybe rely on the items less for the kind of craziness now that you've got, more individual races, or you rely less on, the items to kind of maintain some sort of balance and keep people within reach, because you've got more people, or, are you going to need that just as much, if not more so, now that there's more people? This is something that play testing, all this kind of stuff is. I assume they've got to really kind of get into the weeds with that to find out. But I think that for me, one of the things I would certainly like to see come back, it's not something they've never done before, but that kind of more bespoke single player content from Mario Kart DS with the kind of missions, I think is a pretty good idea, because like, especially at this point, when you think of, how much more sophisticated the graphics are, how many more characters they have and stuff, just how many more tracks they've built over the years, like, you could do a lot of interesting kind of scenarios, I would have thought, with the various sort of bits and pieces of like Mario Kart that we've seen over, the years since that mode appeared in Mario Kart DS, right? I mean, it's kind of like, I guess it wasn't very long before that you had F-Zero GX's like story mode, where you essentially had missions that were like, okay, here's a scenario. You've got to destroy all the other cars, or, you've got to beat Samurai Goro in this particular
Captain
race.
Falcon Mass Murderer.
Yeah, so it was because they didn't really have Death Race as like a separate thing in F-Zero GX. It was just a mission mode where it kills everyone. But that's the thing, is like, I would have thought, Mario Kart having more variables than F-Zero ever has in terms of like items and things like that. Like, you could come up with more scenarios, that are much more varied, than you could have done either back, when they were doing Mario Kart DS or for F-Zero, in terms of like, okay, let's have a mission that really kind of emphasizes a particular item, and maybe it is more about, the battle mode aspect where it's like you're scoring points off enemies, rather than actually blowing them up the way he did in F-Zero. But, just things like that rather than just about right. But you could have racing scenarios, you could have them against kind of boss type characters, or again, battle mode type things against boss type characters. Like, there's so much between Mario Kart history, the Mario franchise history. You wouldn't even have to broaden it out into the Smash Kart thing where it's like all sorts of Nintendo stuff in general. You've got all these tools, all the items they've had, all the tracks they've had, the modes they've had before, coupled them together into specific tasks and things. You could come up with some really cool stuff, surely. Obviously it's their job to do it, not mine, but, I think if you're willing to invest in it, I think you could do some good things. I guess the problem, I would assume, why we may not see that is just that it's kind of like, well, this not really what people come to Mario Kart for, and maybe they think, it would be development resource intensive for something that a lot of people are just going to kind of forget about or look at a bit and then you move on, whatever. It's just, you're not going to really reap the dividends.
I guess the question is, how much of the immense single player content that made its way into Smash Deluxe, was Sakurai can do whatever he wants, and he wanted to make this really overly involved story mode, and how much of it is Nintendo was cool with it. Because I feel like if Sakurai woke up one day and is like, I want to put a 30-hour story mode in Smash, Nintendo's just gonna go like, fuck, whatever, fine.
Yeah, it's like, hey, it's your hospitalization.
Right. Like, yeah, sure. I guess here's your budget. For fuck's sake, just put a competent menu in it, I guess. And once again, he said, "No, I will not."
No, my wife will do it.
Yeah, but like,
I mean, I feel like they could do it. Maybe something like they could sell a new cart along with sell. Like maybe like a single player story, like a story pack for a character with a new cart.
You said new cart, and I was thinking like a giant rideable amiibo.
No. I mean, that's the thing. Like instead of
I was thinking of Mario's new cart.
Oh, okay.
I'm saying instead of front loading the game with a whole bunch of story content, like trickle out story content and say, hey, here's story content for a character. And here's a new cart to go along with it that you can use in multiplayer.
So that's the Street Fighter V approach. When that game launched, just basically like, our tournaments are coming up. Let's launch it in this clearly unfinished state with no single player content.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know.
I mean, that's what happened.
but I mean, I think Street Fighter V is a pretty crappy example compared to other Mario Kart games,
but
right?
I mean,
you could say the same thing. By the same token, you could say the same thing about other Mario Kart games, that they were unfinished in terms of single player content because you just have,
Mario Kart
500 CCs and whatever.
Mario Kart 8 was unfinished in terms of multiplayer content because it didn't have a proper battle mode. But yeah,
well, my point is Capcom was like, yeah, we're gonna add that later. Don't worry about it.
Oh, like that was bullshit.
Yeah, like. We can debate the degree to which Mario Kart has had sufficient single-player content, but even Capcom was like, no, it's coming, we just don't have it right now. Mm-hmm. It's not done. And then they started dropping it in waves afterwards because that game was in a bad place.
I mean, with I think Mario Kart Wii, they had some online like challenges that kind of came later that are somewhat substituted for the DS mission kind of thing. But,
yes.
Not funny. And they were kind of even easier to miss. And then I think it's worth pointing out after that, Mario Kart 7 and 8 were both made under such terrible sort of time pressure. Because in both cases, it was like, well, this is one of our biggest hitters that has been proven on DS and Wii. Huge numbers, right? Some of the most successful games on those platforms. And, with both the 3DS and Wii U, is like things not looking too hot out of the gate. So we need to get Mario Kart onto market as quickly as we can to try and salvage this thing. And of course, in the case of 3DS, it did that to a fair degree alongside 3D Land, I should say. And then with Wii U, it as good as it was and as incredibly as it sold for a game on a very unpopular console, it couldn't do anything to really change the fortunes and get more people to buy the console. So this will be a bit of a change for a Mario Kart game, presumably, in terms of just like, hey, yeah, it's not just the first one in a long time. It's the first one where they might not be like so I mean, look, there are pressures, right? There's still going to be the pressure of this game is expected to help sell this new system, which we maybe it's going to like have not a great start. We don't know. I mean, it's who could say at this juncture, but still, you kind of feel like because the first one was so long ago and was so successful, at least this time there were more time to kind of think about where we take what kind of direction you want to take it, and what you might add to it to kind of fully flesh it out rather than, no, this just needs to be out as quickly as it can be out.
Yeah, and to me, what I would like to see, but again, we talked about this last week where I mentioned that I don't really play a lot of online games anymore. I want this game to be deeply robust online. And that doesn't just mean like the netcode's good, which again, no guarantees. I want a game that has more than just like you get into races, you can run races, or you can run a series of races with people. I want it to feel more like a persistent online, not world, but like a persistent online tournament is always happening. Or that you can rack up points for in seasons. Like what if they just had seasons and every 2 weeks and the number of races you ran, even if you sucked in them, you got some points. And if you performed well, you got more points. And if you set like lap records for the week, maybe there was a whole stratigraphy around that, like how fast you ran this lap compared to everybody else who ran that lap that week. Of course, it's going to depend on who you're running it against, but guess what? World records do too. It doesn't matter. Like all these things that they could factor in to just having this constant sense of things are happening online. And you wouldn't have to actively engage with them. Just playing online effectively makes them happen, if that makes sense.
Well, this is it. Again, speaking about how long ago Mario Kart 8, it's in its original form certainly was, and then even the deluxe game, they had a lot more experience doing online leveraged multiplayer games since, in particular Splatoon 2 and 3, and even, the original Splatoon was after Mario Kart 8 on Wii, where it's like, that's so much of the game, right, is having different modes, having different events, having seasons, all these are to try and maintain player engagement, right? The Splatfests and the different ranked modes and like all this kind of stuff. That, with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, you have like a score that you kind of can keep adding to based on if you finish relatively well against, players and what their scores are like. And then if you finish, poorly compared to like players who've got a lower score, well, then it can go down. that's about it, right? It's not like a very involved tracking, and it doesn't have those kind of milestones or like the time sort of sensitive kind of feel of like, this is an event, this is bring you in, this will keep like things tracking and keep prodding you back towards the game. Like, I would have thought that Splatoon experience in particular is going to inform, you know, how they kind of dress things up to a fair degree. But I guess that's the thing. You could say a lot of that stuff, you know, it is window dressing. It is kind of like just take stuff that's there and kind of just push it in front of people's faces, you know, strategically to kind of make them come back to the game. The substance of it, how different that, you know, is, and how that would, you know, bring people in and keep them engaged and stuff. Well, that's, you know, probably harder to answer, but yeah, some of that kind of presentation and structural stuff, there's no doubt they must have learned a lot from Splatoon. It's different kind of game, so I don't want to, you know, overstate how much you just, you just take that, you port it over 1-to-1 or whatever, but it's got to be very informative relative to where they were when even the deluxe version launched back in April of 17.
I do wonder from the racing experience standpoint, what would feel, I don't want to just say would feel like more, would feel like an advancement. I don't want what I've heard some people mention of like, well, we want it, I've heard it referred to as like a mode like in Smash Brothers, for glory, which ridiculous. Like it's the
spoken like someone that's never basked in the glory, but go on.
No, that's fine. Like the blue, as much as you might hate the blue shell is actually mechanically important to
that's what I was saying earlier on with the like how much does adding like go into like 24 races potentially fuck with that, because it's a balance, right? And it's like it's not that fun when, you know, you just have somebody. You know, there's a bunch of carnage up front. Somebody gets up front, out in front, I should say. And then it's like, yeah, they're just, you know, cruising along. Everybody else is killing each other, and the lead just grows and grows and grows. And there's nothing there. There's no contest there. Like that's why it exists. And balancing that stuff out. I mean, I will say, you know, maybe there's also some lessons to be learned. From a different one like MF0 99, because, you know, that has to do some of that same stuff in terms of like, how do we make it, you know, different? How do we make it kind of different from regular F-Zero games, but also, you know, kind of have it work for people playing an online game? And again, you've got the same problem there, right? And probably more so in terms of, you know, once people get out in front of the maelstrom of the you know, the 90 cars, if you've got a full house, although he'll populate with bots anyway. In a, you know, kind of, the bots are always less crazy than the regular people. They're quite sort of, you know, they're not that aggressive generally. But the point is, like, they've got to do the same thing, where it's like, if people just get out in front and cruise, it's not going to be very good. So they've got different mechanisms. Obviously, there's no kind of blue shell to do it, but what they do have is, first of all, it's things like a skyway boost system where it's like, okay, you accrue this ability to do a boost that takes you up above the track, above the fray, away from everybody killing themselves down there, and catch up. But that is based on all these kinds of like yellow like balls that come out of people when they're like fighting each other. So it's like naturally, like, yeah, you collect a lot of that if you're in the middle of the pack, or even more towards the back. If you're at the front, there's very little of that to be found. So that's a kind of natural kind of stabilizing feature. And then the other thing they do is they just spawn loads of exploding nuisance cars. So it is quite scary if you ever find yourself actually, oh God, I'm like actually really near the front. And then you this like this formation of red exploding bumpers just spawning in front of corners. And like, gee, how does anybody cope with this? So I mean, maybe you come up with some mechanisms that aren't just the blue shell, or the other items. Like, come up with some other stuff that could do it different ways, maybe just for different modes. Like, you keep certain things, the way they've always been, just for your classic Grand Prix or your classic quick race, but have some other stuff that can achieve it in a different way. It gives you more variety and maybe just a different feel to some modes.
Yeah. I like the idea that there is just a sense of the races feel more dynamic, because I'll give it's a different game, so bear with me. But one of the things with the Forza Horizon games that I kind of get bummed out about is sometimes I just have a really good car. I just have a really good car, really well made for this race, and I got out in front, and then there's nothing. Because, I mean, John, you've played a lot of Horizon.
Well, it's all or nothing. Either you get out in front and no one can catch up, or you fall behind and you can never catch up.
Right. But like when you start a race, it's just chaos. It's pandemonium. Everything's on fire. People are crashing. It's terrible. But if you get through that mess at the start, it's boring. Yeah. Like, and some of these races are really long. And like if it's boring in Forza Horizon's a game that's built on nitro and cocaine, like, that's not good. Like, that game should never be boring. But, I did I think it was like a 20-mile race. I got out in front in the first mile. Mm-hmm. And I didn't see anybody the rest of the race. Yeah. The entire rest of the race.
I mean, most racing games are like that. I mean, Gran Turismo is like that. Forza Motorsport is like that. It's like, either you get out in, like, the first 10 seconds of the race or you're screwed. Yeah, it's just terrible. It's just terrible.
Races with laps are usually better because you run into the back of the pack. Yeah. But Mario Kart tracks are usually pretty long, so it takes a lot, especially if it's only 3 laps, to ever be at risk of lapping somebody. Lapping somebody in Mario Kart's pretty rare, unless it's like Baby Park. Yeah. Yeah. Where, like, you can probably lap someone and be lapped at the same time in Baby Park. But, like, having something where it constantly feels like you're having to react. There was a racing game, Split Second, that was it. Disney put it out back in, like, 2012. Where shit's just constantly blowing up and the stage is falling apart. And it's constantly transforming and evolving. And if you're in the front, you're experiencing that much more firsthand than people behind you. They're coming up on a stage that's changed from when they were here last time. But you saw the stage explode and collapse onto the track and had to dodge it. Now, the problem with that is it's the same place every time. So, like, there's a certain amount of, I can't remember what the name of the paradox is, the Hangman's paradox, I think, where it's like, you're going to get hanged because of your crime, but it's going to be on a day that surprises you at noon. And so the convictee decides, well, it can't be Friday then, because if it wasn't Thursday, then it won't be a surprise. And then just reverses back all the days. But it's actually true in this case. Like, if by the fifth lap I do, I'm just gonna, lap 2, it always falls down. Lap 3, it does this other thing. So the other option, and this is where I'm not sure Nintendo has the skill to do it, would be not an open world racer. I don't need that. But a racer where, like, maybe it's not so much track oriented as it is, there is a space. And there are laps, but maybe the actual structure of the laps through the space changes, like the routes they're on. And you could, if you really wanted to mix it up, actually make the point. And Excite Truck did this a little bit, where it was like there were parts of the race where it's just like, I don't know, get there. I don't care how you do it. That can make things a little bit more chaotic. Maybe there's a higher, like, obviously Mario Kart has paths, like alternate paths you can take. But if it's more of just, this is a space, get there how you want, and it's less hard emblazoned trails, that might make races feel more dynamic.
You could have, you could have a Diablo mode where every single race is just procedurally generated, every single track. So it's the same pieces to the track, but just there you go.
X Cup, that's what you're looking for.
There we go.
Yeah.
like there's definitely some opportunity to make the actual state of the track more dynamic, create more approaches. I think that's the better way of wording it. Where there can be things happening out of sight of you, and then suddenly somebody cuts out in front of you and they're way ahead. Or I don't know, just like opportunities to have experiences regardless of where you are in the pack. Like that feels like a very Mario Kart approach, especially if you're making the pack bigger. Because
we don't know how broadly, how many modes are going to change with that. But I guess, they with the tour tracks, and I never played Mario Kart Tour itself, but the ones, the way they were implemented in the booster pass or whatever for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, like they did try and sort of mix up laps by saying, okay, well, this particular, the first lap you go, this way around the track, and then the second lap, it would change, and then maybe even the third lap again. So they experimented with that, basically having the laps be different, for each one. Presumably just as a way to give it that bit of variety.
So my idea, and I don't know, like maybe it wouldn't be fun at all, but like my idea to solve this this thing where like, oh yeah, at the beginning it's very like there's a throng of drivers, so it's very chaotic, and then it becomes boring. I was inspired by maybe like something like the Paris track, where towards the end, like it kind of turns the circuit back on itself, and so like you're racing and you're facing some of the people who were slower than you, because they have to go around, and like now you're facing them and you're going the other way.
Nice.
Just make that like some sort of like main mode or default mode where like half the like 10 racers go one way, 10 go the other, and so like in the middle of every lap, basically you meet the opposite throng of drivers, and then it's chaos.
Oh yeah.
So like you've got the chaos of the pack at the beginning, and then if you get away from them, you're going to be the first to face the shells of the gang that's going to be coming the other way.
Oh, that's really good. It's kind of like there's a go-kart track I used to race when my parents when I was a little kid, and we go to the beach, and like it was the least safe go-kart track in the world because it had an X-Cross. But there was no ramp. Like normally X crosses will have a ramp, so like one side passes on. No, it was just an intersection.
God.
And it was just like, you might die here. There's no law. At this intersection, bad things happen. And I got T-boned at least 4 times growing up at that stupid intersection. And it hurts. But like imagine you get to like the end of the track and like the anti-gravity stuff where you'd go up the wall, but you just like go up the wall, do a loop, and come back down, and now you're on the same road, just going the opposite way. And there are people coming at that loop from the opposite. What if you just had like the baby park equivalent of that, except it's just one stretch of asphalt, and there's one of those loops at each end of the track, so you're constantly running into each other the whole time. But also there's 24 cars on the track. That would be the worst, and I would love it. Especially, like, what would the blue shell even target? Everyone.
I mean, they would target the person who's closest to their end goal, I guess.
But imagine the bullet bill on that. There would still be
a number 1, number 2.
Imagine a bullet bill on that track, though. Everyone dies. Sure. It would be amazing. It'd be the best. Like I do, but that's the thing. Like, there's going to be a ton of tracks in this game. By the time it's done, it might not launch with a ton of track, but there's going to be DLC.
Yeah, you got to think expansion sort of packs. This thing is going to be pretty much baked in from the start. So it'll be under pressure to launch with a reasonable amount of content because they kind of set a standard for themselves, right? Like for a long time, really, where it's like, okay, we have 16 tracks that are entirely new, 16 tracks that are remixes, rebuilds of tracks from old games for a total of 32. split into cups of 4. That's
Right.
it. That's what a Mario Kart game is. So, every time we give that to you, you can feel, like you're getting, the full Mario Kart kind of experience. So they did that essentially for Super Circuit on GBA, and then, not for Double Dash, but then Mario Kart DS, and Mario Kart Wii, and Mario Kart 7, and Mario Kart 8 at launch. But of course, then when they had the DLC for Mario Kart 8, it's like, okay, well, this is additional then, right? It's like we've given you the 32 already, but now here's more. So that was their way in those early days of DLC for Nintendo, where it's like they had been reluctant and they're like, oh no, we put out finished products that have, full game's worth of content, whatever that actually is, we're not, so into the idea of like, nickel and diming people after the fact. But, eventually the commercial imperative was impossible to resist, but that's how they threaded the needle. Problem is now the goalposts have moved, isn't it? It's like, what do people actually think is enough to start a Mario Kart game? Because Mario Kart 8 Deluxe started with the Wii U DLC already in there. And then it grows further with the booster pass. So
yeah,
it'd be interesting to see how many of those, where they draw the line now is like, okay, now, the market and Nintendo themselves are far more used to DLC.
Oh, but what if they take the Splatoon approach and let's say they start with 16 tracks, something like that, relatively small. And then just every couple months we have an event and we get another pack.
They're just stirring in new, not as a purchase, but as an update, and you have an event
Splatoon
around
style.
it and all that.
Yeah.
You have to say again, given that there's the way that the Splatoon experience is mostly a post Mario Kart 8 sort of phenomenon. That might be one of those lessons that we talk about them taking there in terms of. But equally, you've got to think they're having charged for extra Mario Kart 8 stuff twice. Well, and presumably having done well out of that, they reserve the right to go that route as well at some point, maybe.
I fully expect they will, but the idea of, you're right, it's hard to figure out what the needle to thread is now. And they're going to have the same problem with Smash. How many characters is enough? But what if you say...
Yeah, I mean, Smash is like, oh, God, that's a whole other thing.
If you launch with 4 packs of 4, like that's a decent number of tracks, but people would be like, that seems light compared. But if you launch with 4 packs of 4 and say, but there's going to be multiple series coming where we introduce new packs of tracks, and you don't have to say how many there's going to be. And so as long as they're coming out at a cadence, people might feel like, oh, well, and you can just release as many as it feels like is necessary to get the heat off on that game. And then you can say, a year down the road, you could say, okay, now their expansion pack members get this new content for free. I could see an argument from Nintendo's perspective. I don't know that this is a good argument, a good business practice for me to advocate for. I could see an argument from Nintendo's perspective of it never selling DLC for this Mario Kart game, but only making it available through expansion pack. Preservation people would lose their mind, but who cares? That way, like, oh yeah, this is expansion pack exclusive content. You don't want to give up your expansion pack if you ever just decide you might want to play some Mario Kart, because otherwise you're going to lose those tracks. Like,
I guess, I mean,
yeah.
if you got to be an NSO subscriber to play online, then that will undoubtedly be a big part of the next Mario Kart game. So the idea of like, oh, if you pay for the premium online membership, it gets you some sort of additional ability or, a content or something. It's not
Modes.
like way out there, from just the basic kind of deal that they're offering. So it could be done, but I guess it depends, doesn't it? It depends on, how your objectives with this, right? Because it's become so singularly like their biggest commercial kind of, the weapon in the arsenal, if you like. That, you know, do you look at this so much of like, is the objective to maximize revenue from this game that is a massive cash cow? Or is the objective to leverage it to ensure the success of the system, which will then, you know, be a cash cow for everything else? Like, that's one of those things where, yeah, obviously one thing you can't say, what else are you selling the system with in the first year? Right, we don't know the lineup. How does it fit together? How much is this carrying the burden for like the complete online strategy? Are there other games that are like really heavily leveraged online, maybe even more so, and you rely on those a little bit more? And you'd have to know the full composition to kind of answer some of those questions, but this is so big now that, you know, you do have to think of it in a very big picture sense rather than just like how many copies can we sell.
I like the idea of, rather than it ever being DLC, saying that, well, you know, members will get new updates. We're going to have regular events for online that will introduce new content. It, like, one of the biggest ways that, unfortunately, that digital companies make money is they get you to sign up for automatically renewing subscriptions. An expansion pack could be a great automatically renewing subscription if you're a Nintendo. But the other advantage would be it can be kind of a reflexive counteroffer of somebody has expansion pack and you're like, well, they can really push. You should just get Mario Kart. Look at all the stuff that, as an expansion pack member, you're not taking advantage of because you don't have Mario Kart. Like, you can sort of play them against one another, rather than be like, you can buy Mario Kart and also here buy this bundle with DLC that's an extra $20. You could say like, look, you buy Mario Kart, yeah, you get Mario Kart, sure, but look at all the other stuff that you already have because you have expansion pack. It's like it's not FOMO. It's putting a little extra
peer pressure. It's kind of, isn't it?
Yeah,
you know, I guess
putting a little extra bait on the hook. It's selling it from a different perspective, essentially. Like, there's definitely some angles you could play. It also lets them be responsive to what critical reaction is. Like, if they put 16 tracks out there, and people are like, yeah, there's enough tracks. They don't have to make any more, or they can make like enough to get it to 24 and call it a day.
Yeah,
but if the critical response is like, it's not enough, they can be like, well, we've got so many in the works right now. Don't worry about it. It's going to be plenty this time next year.
Yeah, I always think Fortnite is always interesting in this because of the way they
Logan Paul and Mario Kart. Got it.
Yeah, I mean, you can make all the jokes that you want about Fortnite, but it is pretty brilliant. The fact that they sit there and change the map as it goes along, and they just completely they reinvent that game over and over and over again, which is something that really nobody was doing up to that point. You know, I mean, why would Mario Kart? I mean, Mario Kart could do that, right? They could just sell season passes or something where you get different carts, and so it becomes kind of a game of, here's all the carts that I have and the different characters I have unlocked, and every 3 months, all of the maps change. Maybe not wholesale, but maybe they change a little bit here and there, so that every 3 months the game kind of resets itself and becomes something different.
Oh, so going back to my like persistent online stat tracking world.
Yeah, kind of like kind of turn it, like switch it on its head a little bit. Like you become you kind of have like your Mario Kart account, and then it's like the game becomes something that you attack rather than you know.
I don't even think they'd need to sell season passes because unlike Fortnite, they're getting the cut for being the system holder as well.
Mm-hmm.
But like, they could have effectively passes that are free, and they could run events, and they already do that with Mario Kart Tour, not Mario Kart Tour, Mario Kart. No, not Mario. Their Mario game. Fuck, what is it called? The handheld one for mobile. Run. Yeah, it's like they do events tied to stuff where it's just like, all right, you have to do all these objectives to get it. Forza does this, like Forza Horizon. It has all kinds of like weekly progress things. You remember the weekly challenges, John, that you and I got really obsessed with for a while?
Yes.
I had all of them for like 6 straight months.
Yup.
Like they could do stuff like that, but you're right. They could change up the maps. What if they just changed up the map seasonally? Like they just had a seasonal version of it. It's winter time now. Now we're like Animal Crossing. It's winter, and now this track has snow on it, and it controls
Yeah,
differently.
they've done that for the F-Zero. They did. The F-Zero 99 had the like winter versions of the tracks, and they put a bunch of ice patches down and make it harder to corner and all that kind of stuff.
That'd be really cool.
Aren't F-Zero anti-gravity? Why are they affected by
Yeah,
ice?
I know. I don't know, but I mean, it was something that was already in the game, though.
Oh, I know.
I don't know that it was ever. I never, especially like played Japanese, like the for the original F-Zero and F-Zero X. I didn't have like manuals I could read. I don't know whether they ever explained why there were these big light blue patches that made it a lot sort of more, sort of loose your handling at that point. But yeah, functionally it is, and then literally once we got to F-Zero 99 and the seasonal variation.
Yeah, like you could do event and actually, John, again with Forza, they do that. Like Christmas time, the towns will get Christmas themed. So like you're driving through Forza Horizon World, and now there's a bunch of Christmas trees up, and there's lights strung, and at night it looks really nice. You're like, oh, this European village looks beautiful at Christmas. I'm gonna drive my Subaru SRX through at 170 miles an hour and smash into everything.
Yeah, hit snowmen.
Yeah, or Christmas trees. Like somebody spent a lot of time on this tree. I'm gonna fuck it up. You could do all of that in a Mario Kart game, and yeah, it could be stat tracking, like hit all the snowmen. Although they might be sentient in Mario Kart, and yeah, like maybe you get things for it. Maybe you get. Why don't Mario Kart games have like legitimate cosmetics? Like, there have been Mario games that have cosmetics.
The customizable parts is like halfway there, isn't it? You know what I mean? Like, it's
but
like,
they do have stat impact.
You could kind of make a somewhat distinctive build out of these parts, that's just about like what you want it to look like, and you're not necessarily going to see a bunch of other people racing in something that's similar. But yeah, the problem is not purely
it's just
cosmetic.
That everyone wants to be Waluigi on a Diggler bike.
Yeah, it's not purely
Wiggler,
cosmetic.
yeah.
So for people who are not using it for people who are not using it just for aesthetics, but are actually working the stat angle of it, well, they find what the best combination is, and then you do get a lot of people that look the same. So yeah, you could just divorce the two, couldn't you? Just have stuff that's purely cosmetic versus stuff that's, kind of stat impact.
But I'm not thinking about the carts, although the carts are relevant. Like we make fun of Pink Gold Peach all the time because Pink Gold Peach deserves to be made fun of.
Oh yeah, the costumes and stuff. They did that in Tour, right? Like there was it didn't make its way. Obviously, the tracks came over in the booster pass, but yeah, there wasn't whatever, like Halloween Rosalina or whatever was involved in that. Yeah.
Like GX was posting a bunch of cosmetics from some Sonic game that there were two of them, and one of them was like a mobile game, and it looked like shit. It was like Crystal Zavok, which they couldn't even make out his profile anymore because it was just like crystalline bullshit. But then other ones, it was like costumes, and they looked. I mean, they didn't really appeal to me, but the robot, I'm blanking on what his name is, but he was dressed like a football player. So he had like a football helmet on and pads on instead of his like shit like that. They could put so many of those costumes in there at relatively low effort because you don't have to animate them. They're just sitting in the car. Yeah. Like you could make those unlockable objectives for seasonal things, or you can sell some of them if you want. Don't blind bag it. But like, hey, it's the holiday season. A bunch of these stages have been made holiday themed if you play them in seasonal mode or whatever. Achieve these objectives, win X number of races, knock over a bunch of stuff. Maybe you could have them be more just not outcome based, but more skill based. Drift for X number of seconds over the course of that time. And
maybe you could give it even stuff that we're trying to talk about, stuff to add, stuff that isn't already there, but even some of those classic kind of things that have already been there, like the time trials, right? Yeah. Like the whole, beat the developer ghost, right? Well, right. Maybe you could kind of drive people to actually engage with that part of the game more if it's like, you unlock some of these kind of cosmetic trophies associated with that. If you do, I know there was a tiny bit of that, I think, in Mario Kart 8 in terms of some gold kart parts that you only got if you did particular things, like maybe you're beating all the cups or collecting so many coins, but it was very narrow. It was only, I think it was like 1 gold cart bit for each, category. So like, 1 set of tires, 1 body, and 1 glider bit or something. It was really minor. They didn't go any further with it. So,
and there were gold versions of the kind of the regular cart and the regular,
the most boilerplate ones. That's right. So it was like dipping the barest little bit of toe into that particular bit of water.
I want Halloween costume Dr. Goomba Tower. Goomba Tower is the character, which needs to be in this game. And then for Halloween, he plays a doctor, because we know he's not a real doctor. That's why Dr. Mario Tour got shut down, or Dr. Mario World, whatever they called that, because he was practicing without a license. And then his Halloween costume is just him in a lab coat. It'd be great. It'd be stupid. It'd be funny. It'd be really enjoyable. Especially if you have 24 characters. Like, I don't need 24 distinct Mario characters if people look different. Like, is there any really harm if you're playing an online race with 24 people and there's 2 Donkey Kongs in it? Is the world going to end? No, not really. So just let it roll. Just let it ride. And like, let us...
It'd be a bit better if it was 2 Funky Kongs, wouldn't it?
Funky Kong's already Donkey Kong in an outfit. Like,
that's the point. They all are, aren't they?
Rare's design team gave up at
They
lunch.
did add Funky Kong as part of like the very last bit of
they did.
the booster pass. They didn't just add the last tracks, but they had some last few characters and stuff. So,
do you think the people at Rare was it? I'm trying to remember what the name of the town at Twicross? Like, were they just like
Twycross?
Were they like, how early can we cut out today? And Nintendo think we did a good job. And they're like, I'm going to put a mohawk on Donkey Kong and sunglasses and see if we get away with it. And Nintendo's like, Funky Kong, great, good job. Excellent design. Meanwhile, they're at a pub drinking. Because there is a lot of just like, that's just Donkey Kong in a suit. You can't fool me. I wasn't born yesterday. Like, those could all just be cosmetics. And maybe it's like in Smash, where the cosmetics have a different name when you're dealing with, like, the Bowser kids. But they're just cosmetics. Like, that would be fun. That would be a neat little thing. And you could just have cosmetics.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised they didn't sell the more cosmetic stuff for Smash. I know they sold the Mii stuff.
I bought all of it at one point because it was on sale.
The Mii fighters,
so much.
That there was a lot of that, but for other characters, right? Like other like actual things that featured in those particular games. Costumes that you could have had like a bunch of different kind of suits for Samus, like from specific Metroid games, rather than just like, oh well, we've got the different colors that kind of suggest them, but not the actual different, dimensions and design of the suit or anything like that. But
yeah, I mean, like an obvious thing is that, like in Super Mario Odyssey, like one of the final costumes that you unlocked was the Super Mario 64 look. Like that seemed like I was kind of shocked when I played as Cloud and Super Smash Brothers, and there was not an option to be like the low poly look. There really should have been.
That would have been good. Actually, they just did 2, right? They did like regular Cloud and Advent Children Cloud. That was it. So he did have an alternate one
because Square Enix doesn't allow you to be funny with Cloud anymore, despite the fact he's objectively a dork.
Super serious. Got to be super serious with Cloud.
I do like the idea though of like Mario Odyssey's great. Like every Mario costume could be in that. Like there's so many. Like they made so many good costumes, and it was so much fun getting them all. And you're right. The Mario 64 one was really good. What if that was just an item? What if there was an item we need new power-ups. What if one of the power-ups was it turns everyone into Mario 64 sprite versions of their character? It doesn't actually...
Or it turns the whole world.
Well, that'd be a lot of work. That'd be a lot of work. That'd be a lot of
I know
work.
it's way too much work, but that new Sonic racing game is like built around the fact that like a portal opens up and you go somewhere else or whatever. It's like instead it's just like everything a portal opens up and everyone goes to low poly Toad Turnpike or whatever.
Yeah, but I mean, they could sell like a remix pack or something. Like this remixes these courses.
Sure,
That'd be really cool.
I just like the idea that you pick up an item, you're like, what? It's the N64 logo. What does this do? And suddenly every other character is made to look like their N64 counterpart. Get rid of Lightning. We've seen Lightning a million times. Just do that instead.
Very, very small. You're now very small, not because the lightning strike has shrunk you, but because you've actually you're by pixels. It's the count from
Your
like
resolution
N64, but because it's on a bigger resolution, you're now shrunk.
I like that idea more than anything. What rideable characters? What if you could just ride on Donkey Kong's back and run around the track?
I know I've said this before about Mario Kart, and I really doubt it's something they'd concentrate on, but like, for whatever, I don't know that everyone was that hot on Double Dash, but I did like the idea of actually having like local co-op element to Mario Kart. Now, of course, what Double Dash is, it kind of made it so like baked into the game that was like, it affected everything, but like it didn't necessarily have to be that way. You could have a discrete mode that encouraged, local co-op rather than just, competitive. Although I guess, you've got like teams in battle mode and stuff, but,
right.
More bespoke kind of than that.
Well, there are so many ideas that they can put, for new modes, or like you mentioned much earlier, like boss battles and stuff for the story mode. But so this is something that could also work online. This idea I had, like inspired by the asymmetric multiplayer of Mario Party, of all things, where someone is controlling Bowser and everyone else is like against him. Like something that came out between Mario Kart 8 originally and today is the 10-year-old Fury Road movie. So, like, what about, like, someone, like, Bowser is driving a big-ass truck.
Bowser's
and
Fury
everyone
mode?
else is trying... Everyone is trying to stop him, and so, like, like, you've got a health bar or whatever, like, so he has to make it to the goal before people can blow him up. Maybe you can have like some people and like on their vehicles attacking the people trying to take him down. Like that could be like a whole thing. It could be very spectacular and everything. Mm-hmm. And of course, this mode is called Bowser's Fury Road.
There we go.
Yeah.
And the car better go a hell of a lot faster than it does in 3D worlds, because that's a trundler. But this is the point. There's so many scenarios you can draw upon in the history of Mario and Mario Kart to make cool like events. You know what I mean? It would be. I think there's a lot of potential there, but it's just I don't know whether they think it's the kind of thing that drives sales or continued engagement, when it's just like this one-off thing and you do it and that's it. Maybe if it was more of a like what James is talking about, where it's like, and what you already mentioned, Guillaume, if it's an online event thing and it's like maybe there's incentives for keeping doing it, a bit like to bring back the Splatoon kind of parallels, like a salmon run type of scenario, right? Like with Salmon Run, there's a high score element to that, but then there's also like every now and again the kaiju salmons will turn up and it's just like hell on earth basically, and all that, like having that element of like you kind of know, it's an event where you kind of know what you're getting and there's a high score and a replayability element and you get special events like the big runs. But then there's also that unpredictable or the procedural or, random element there that just you never quite know exactly what you're going to get in a particular run. Like that, maybe that would make it more likely that they could make some sort of like special kind of boss type scenarios, maybe if you bake it into an online activity that keeps pulling people back.
What if we just, like, going back to the items, what if we just had the Wonder Flower from Mario Wonder? And just the whole, like, every other racer goes into the hallucinogenic state. And that's your chance to go through. Like,
it's kind of like just a more visually interesting version of the blooper, I guess.
Yeah. Oh,
you know,
yeah.
in terms of, in that case, just like people get a black patch on their screen, but like, yeah, if it's it's essentially the same thing, and it's messed up your visibility, but it's just because it's bonkers and weird rather than just black. You know?
But with Wonder, when you get the Wonder fruit or whatever it was called, that was like the dangers were real. So, like, what if all the course becomes a giant snake and it will hurt you?
You know, just like trees come alive and start attacking you, or going in the middle of the road. I mean, again, this is stuff that's probably like way more work than
but it would be fun.
It is to come up with. But like, yeah, it that's the thing. I would love more specific Mario references. I'm always a fan of that in Mario Kart, where it's like this feels like it's actually from the series rather than I mean, even just like what we've seen so far. It's just, it's this like dusty, kind of area that looks like it's from the Midwestern US, and Yoshi's got a diner now. Like, it's not screaming that it's pulled directly from a particular Mario game.
You could have like a Wonder-inspired track, and then those fruit would be at the same spot. It's just the first person to get to them when they respawn gains advantage. And so, like, it wouldn't have to make it work on every track. They could just make it work on that one. You could have a WarioWare track. You could have a WarioWare track. I am saying out loud so people can hear it. You could have a WarioWare track, like the WarioWare stage.
That's where you go. That's where you reference Excite Bots, isn't it? Like, because Excite Bots had those weird little mini games. Yeah. Essentially, there's like, well, you just sort of you put that into a WarioWare track, then it actually kind of but I guess the question because Excite Bots and Truck, they were like score based, right? It's like how many points did you accrue? It wasn't just about where you finished. It was about all the crazy stuff you did get in there.
Right.
And obviously finishing, is a big chunk of your score. That's the other thing. Do you mess around with that? Do you have modes that are more like, and this would go into the whole like score tracking online thing of like, and F-Zero 99 does this a bit as well. Obviously, everyone wants to finish first, but it's like, it's tracking, how
mode.
Many of the bumpers you take out, how many points you got, like, just by attacking other cars and having a really good single lap and all that. Like, it's more granular assessment of what you're doing in general, could be worked in just to, make it, like you said, even if it's one of these situations with all the chaos and all that, it's like, no, you're not gonna finish first. It's not happening, but you've still got something to play for, right? If you've got these other sort of metrics that are baked in.
Coin battle mode is back in Mario Kart form. And you can set the target number of coins to collect. And you can get, when you hit people, you get some of their coins.
But this is the Smash coin, but because there is a coin runners thing in Mario Kart battle mode, but you're thinking about the Smash Brothers mode where if you hit people hard, a bunch of gold coins fall out.
Yes. But you have to get 999 coins if you set it to be that high. You set the number of coins as a victory.
Whatever character you say, Ganondorf or something, is like, you can't put a price on my pain. And Sakurai says, no, I can. It's exactly the amount of coins that are about to fall out of you after someone uses the home run bat on you.
It's 39 coins. You're right. I feel like there's a lot of opportunity to make stages and make interesting ideas that give more, like Smash Brothers we talk about as like, it's a love letter to every game featured. Like, we went nuts when we saw all the except for anything from Square Enix. We went nuts when we saw the amount of music that SNK just gave Sakurai. I was like, here's every piece of song anyone at SNK ever wrote. Have fun. And it's like, okay, I'm going to do write-ups of this stuff. I'm going to put the fucking cassette tape song you had to mail away for on the Switch version of Smash just so it's there. And like, Mario Kart could be that too, while still maintaining its core Mario Kartness. Like, we had an office party that was delayed because of weather many times. And by that, I mean, this was a party that was originally scheduled to be in December. It was yesterday. That's how many times it got delayed. but they had a room set up that was just people playing Smash on like an 80-inch TV screen, which one, you can really see the places where Smash cuts down on frame rate to save energy with like 6 players when you're not playing it. Like, oh wow, the background is doing nothing right now. But the WarioWare stage was really fun to watch them play because they just kept going random because they don't have a ton of experience. They were just doing whatever. But like a stage where you could absolutely have a Mario Party themed racing stage. I don't know what you would do, but I trust Nintendo to figure it out. You could do stuff with like what's another good Mario themed thing you could do? Like you could do Mario Sports stuff. You could do
I was going to say Mario Tennis. What does that look like?
Well, I mean, maybe you're racing around the track while people you didn't have pick are trying to play tennis, and you're disrupting their game. You're getting hit with serves. You come around and suddenly you're in the middle of a Mario Strikers field where there's a game going on, and you have to avoid it.
You can turn it into Rocket League, right?
Yeah, essentially. Like you can hit the ball with your car, and all the Koopa Troopas that are in there will chase after it.
Yep, you could do bowling. You could hit a bowling. You could have somebody hit a bowling ball, and you have to take out all of the pins. You can do all kinds of wacky stuff. That's the thing. Like with Mario Kart, you can do pretty much anything. You're not even restricted. I mean, you're talking about Forza Horizon, James. That game is at least maybe a little bit restricted by some sort of reality, even though it's pretty ridiculous at times.
Oh yeah.
Like with Mario Kart, you just do whatever you want.
Like what if there's a Dr. Mario themed stage, and it's just the stage is just you're driving around a giant pill bottle as viruses pop up and pills are being dropped on you. Like it could be dumb as hell. Who cares? Like I like the idea of like we made this stage in an hour and made it stupid. Like you don't have to play it very much. It's a gimmick stage, whatever. But like we made it. It's insane. Have a good time. That would be really useful for my example earlier of what if they just never charged you for DLC? What if it was always just, hey, you have expansion pack? Here's a new stage. New stage for expansion pack holders. Dr. Mario. And you're like, what the fuck's a Dr. Mario stage? And then 20 minutes later, you're like, well, I never want to see that shit again. But for those 20 minutes, it was probably pretty fucking funny. Or maybe it's not. Maybe you're at the bottom. I know, a pill bottle is round. It's a round track. But at the same time, pills are just constantly descending from the sky, and you have to dodge them when they hit the ground. Or don't
thwomps.
Or don't let them hit you either. It's like, you're looking out on the horizon, and you see a pill bottle coming down towards the track. You're like, okay, I need to swerve to avoid this thing. Shit. There's a lot of opportunities to be goofy and silly, and also lean more into being a love letter to the Mario series. Which, I mean, above any other Nintendo series, is the one that deserves it.
Well, to be fair, I think, you look at some of the extra stuff from, that was in, like, the DLC for 8, and then, the booster pass stuff. Some of that's the best stuff in terms of, like, really taking stuff, from games and building them in, like the Yoshi's Island track in the booster course, sort of selection. That not only is it, very directly patterned on, bits of levels from Yoshi's Island, but they change the sound effects and all that kind of thing, like the coins. Yeah, like just that's the kind of level that you really like. Obviously, the booster course pass was also kind of heavily leveraged on all those like real world location things from Tour and all that. So it kind of felt a little bit, difficult to reconcile these kind of love letters to old Nintendo games from decades ago versus like Paris, but again, it certainly doesn't have to be every track. Doesn't have to go, but that you just like more of that sort of stuff that they got to with, like also back to what GX said, the Smash Kart sort of thing. Yeah, the Animal Crossing track, the Zelda one, like they were pretty cool, and they brought some significant kind of trappings of those series with them, in terms of the, like the presence, floating up in the sky with Animal Crossing, or that weird, like bit of the track that you kind of unlocked in, the Zelda one, where like if enough people hit all the switches, it kind of opened a ramp to like skip over a bit of track, which again kind of helps people further back, right? So that's another one of those mechanisms we talked about earlier where, can we do it other ways than just the brute force of how often does the blue shell rear its head?
That's true. And especially with the blue shell only having that one item to counter it, instead of stuff like that, just have more chaos in general, so it's less valuable to have an item that just drags people back kicking and screaming into the pack. I like the idea of Mario Land 2 6 golden coins theme stage where you literally have to collect the golden coins to win the race. It's not based on laps, it's based on you finding the 6 coins on the track.
Or it would have to be just a ludicrous amount of coins that come out of everything everywhere.
Oh, yeah. You could do that, too.
That's the new Super Mario Brothers 2 level.
There we go.
Right.
It's all about and all the carts are colored gold when you step into the track, no matter what you have. Them. Everybody is pink, gold, peach. Mm-hmm. I like that idea a lot because it's really stupid.
It's really dumb.
But at the same time, it fits with the sense of humor the Mario franchise has that I feel like the Mario Kart franchise sometimes doesn't really lean into as much as it should. Because we were in 2 conference rooms and they're glass walled because glass conference rooms are the best, they're the worst. The architects, they're the worst. Stop doing it. But one of them had Smash, one of them had Mario Kart, same size TV, but the Mario Kart one was much less visually interesting to watch than what was happening on Smash. Bringing some of that over, some of that visual interest, I think, 1, would make it more fun to just watch other people play, but 2, that might make it more, Mario Kart is obviously a very popular game, but if it's more fun to watch, it might make it more of a thing that people stream online, that gets coverage, that helps perpetuate the infinite sale machine that is Mario Kart. There's definitely stuff they can do to make the game more appealing, more interesting, feel more modern, embrace modernity, but also just feel more alive, more interesting, more make it so I can rack up points on our not season pass, whatever we want to call this thing. Even when I'm just playing by myself, I'm just sitting there running races because I just want to. I don't have to be on. Maybe I'm nominally online, like Forza does, where I'm online. These are other people I'm racing with, but I'm not really racing against them. I can't hit them.
Yeah.
They're just kind of there.
Yeah, exactly. I don't always want to race people. It's if there's a way to kind of passively compete or even co-op.
Just ghosts. Just pick 8 random ghosts, and then the rest are bots that you actually are racing against.
Yeah.
When you go on Forza and you run into my ghost, because we're friends. You can't do anything to impede my ghost because it's a ghost play, and it can't hurt you. But the other racers are still there, and they're still very tangible. So you'll watch my fucking trite 3-wheeled thing that I've made go 240 miles an hour, go slam headfirst into the wall because it can't turn.
Well, also don't forget the anime library that's on.
Obviously.
Right.
That's just goes without saying. That's the other thing. Anime livery to all the cars, mandatory, obviously.
Mm-hmm. And obviously, and as well, absolutely no copyright control on that library as well.
Absolutely not, except Mario. Ban people from making Mario art in this Mario game.
Right.
Yeah, it's bad. It's real bad. I've only ever once had a design get revoked, and I picked it thinking if this one gets me banned, I will have earned it. But it was in the shop. I don't care. Let's just say it was very strongly hinting at an act of sexual enjoyment. I'll word it that way. You couldn't see anything, but the implication was extremely potent. And Microsoft agreed, because when I launched it back up again, my van had no anime art on it anymore. It was back to pure white. And I'm like, I see. Yeah. That skin got deleted.
I guess somebody reported it.
Fair enough. I wasn't even mad. I was like, nope, you were right. You were right to do that. I'm just surprised the system works sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, the other one that I think would be really dumb. I know we've gone way long on this one, but I think it gives it, like, I think that it speaks to the fact that Mario Kart's been Mario Kart more or less the way it is. I would say since DS. I feel like DS was kind of an interesting step forward in some ways.
I think you're right. That would pretty much kind of laid the template for everything that came afterwards, and even some stuff that didn't persist. You know, like I said, that like the mission mode, for various reasons. Like I said, a lot of that could just be that development time pressure that went into the subsequent iterations. But I think it was such a big seller. It was so kind of well received that that basically put down a formula that things have changed, and some things have been added, some have been taken away, but broadly that it's been that.
Yeah, 7 brought parts in, and then 8 really just expanded from there. But like, if you were to say, okay, go do something different, something interesting, something new, and try to lay out a new template, I do think it being more interactive, more chaotic, more different is like more differences rather, because let's say they screw it up. Let's say it's like, boy, this is the worst Mario Kart to date. Okay, you just beat the GBA game. How many copies did that sell? A shitload. Like, you could still have a successful game, and now with DLC, you can just DLC. John, you mentioned Fortnite earlier. They could just DLC their way into this being a good game, no matter what it comes out as.
Yeah.
Like, we can fix it. It's fixable now. It wasn't fixable before.
I mean, you talk about a game that has there's a lot made of games that, this game is going to have a 10-year lifespan. I mean, this game will have a 10-year lifespan, 100%.
Right. Oh yeah.
And it'll be viable all the way through. It won't tail off. You'll be sitting here 10 years from now wondering, how the hell is it, who's buying this game anymore?
I want a monster truck mode. I think
that would be cool.
That's what I need. It's just like fucking licensed Gravedigger shows up in the middle of a race.
Gravedigger.
Sorry, I've still got that I'm gonna say, quote, wrestling match from Halloween Havoc I sent you on the roof of the was it the Alamo Dome, where they were driving monster trucks at each other.
Yep.
So stupid.
So dumb.
That was the Big Show's first match, John.
Yeah.
That was the first match of his career, was a stupid monster truck match.
But also, Gravedigger and Bigfoot, they have a certain cachet. You know, they're like kind of cemented in stupid Americana, I would say.
Yeah, like, why can't I drive? I mean, we had a fucking Mercedes in this thing. Why can't I drive Gravedigger? Nintendo, where's Gravedigger?
Yep.
I used to pass, going to those beach places, I used to pass the official Gravedigger shop, which, like, this is where we fix Gravedigger, and they had an old one outside it, and you're like, it's taller than the shop, and I'm like, that's not where you fix Gravedigger. It wouldn't fit in that shop. I'm not stupid. No. I'm 8.
Yeah.
And it was like, but it was there.
But like, have dry bones in Gravedigger. Why not?
There we go. Yeah. Screw it. Let's go. There's an entire, like, are you telling me Nintendo couldn't just buy whatever the Monster Truck League is? I can't. I honestly, TKO probably owns it by now. They probably bought it during this conversation. It's fine. They own that fucking rodeo they bought. This is stupid. Like, I would love for just, we've made a Monster Truck game. You mean Excite Trucks? Nope. Mario Trucks. And you're just rolling over cars and crushing them. It'd be like, Truckosaurus is literally a robotic Bowser. There, I did it.
Truckosaurus. I forgot about Truckosaurus.
I did it. I just did it. That's it. That's the game. We're done. We're done. Like, there's no reason to do anything else. That's it. This is the stupidest, most beautiful game that's ever been created. Trucka-Bowser. I don't know what you'd call it, but you'd have to come up with some kind of play. But Truckosaurus is too good. It's honestly, it's too fucking good to leave it alone. So, and it spits fire. Oh, that's match made in heaven. Match made. Maybe Bowser just operates Truckosaurus. Get that license. It can't be expensive. It can't possibly be expensive. It's not possible. And just go with it. Just go with it, Nintendo. It's right there. Maybe that's what happens when you pick up the hallucinogenic fruit or flower. I can't remember if it was the fruit or the flower that made you hallucinate. The other one, unhallucinated. Like, yeah, there we go. We did it. We got it. All right, anybody else got ideas, or are we going to call it? I'm busy thinking about Truckosaurus now, so you're going to have to bear with me. All right. Well, we only got through one email. I don't even know why we try. But next week, we're going to do another episode. And next week, we're going to talk about stuff. So you can come back for that cliffhanger of what that stuff is, because we don't know what it is either. And hear for yourself what that stuff will be. Tense is very confusing in that context because it's in the future from now. It'll be recorded in the future. But when you hear it, it will have been in the past, but you'll be hearing it in the present. When that episode comes out a week from now. But right now, we're ending this episode. When you do that, you can send your emails to rfn@nintendoworldreport.com. And what you can send, no longer retroactive suggestions. Inbox is closed. What you can send, besides questions, is music. Why would you send music? Why? That's how we end the show every week for years now. And Greg is the keeper of the music. So, Greg, what music are we unkeeping today?
Well, yeah, it is a listener request, and in fact, it's another one from Ravio had last week.
Hey.
Even though the requests were made many months apart, but I wanted something because, of course, shortly after this podcast goes out on the 3rd of March, it's going to be the 8th anniversary of the Switch launch back in 2017. So I wanted something that would, kind of harken back to those days. But equally, I didn't want to kind of like prejudge the outcome of what we was going to pick as a retroactive game, because that's going to surely end up with taking up a slot for the ending music itself when we get around to it. So I kind of went with something that was straddling the line a little bit, because we probably touched on this a little bit earlier because I think somebody kind of nominated it, but essentially like Shovel Knight, but also Spectre Knight's campaign was kind of like a launch title for Switch, right? Like
yes.
that it went out on that on launch day. You could get that the Spectre of Torment, I want to say, I think was the kind of subtitle for that particular DLC campaign. So yeah, I just ended up playing on Wii U at the time. I did get Shovel Knight on Switch eventually when it was very cheap, just to have it on there. But yeah, of course, Shovel Knight, very, very sort of, warmly remembered game that was one of those things that, certainly, kind of talked about this a little bit, with, talking about like Mario Maker and stuff. It was one of those things that Wii U owners could kind of rally around, because it was a really enjoyable game that was available on Wii U. But as I said, I think quite a lot of people might well have discovered it through Switch at launch or near launch. And Ravio's request is for the main theme, that would have gone with the original campaign, which was latterly been referred to as Shovel of Hope or whatever. But this is Vert, Jake Kaufman. Very much what you expect from him if you've heard his work on kind of retro kind of games, with Way Forward. Obviously, this is Yacht Club that was founded by someone that was formerly of Way Forward, if I remember correctly. Is that right?
Yes.
But it's very much in that vein again, and really, really kind of enjoyable soundtrack. And I think they just as coincidence of having just a few days ago, they had some sort of Shovel Knight concert in America somewhere.
I believe that is correct. Yes.
A live performance, of the soundtrack. If Kaufman stuff tends to put me in mind, if anybody of like Alan Silvestri, the guy who did Predator and Back to the Future. If there's like a particular, but I am too much of a musical idiot to actually pin down why that is. So,
I might have to listen to see if I can figure it out now.
I probably more like Shantae stuff, I would say, is where it sounds really kind of clear. And the odd bit of Contra 4, maybe.
He might borrow some musical phrases and that are famous or something.
So much necessarily Shovel Knight, but yeah, great retro style soundtrack to go with a great retro style game.
Well, before I wrap it up, I was doing some researching. It's called Monster Jam, to be clear. And John, remember who I said should unveil the Switch 2? It was The Rock. at
Dwayne Johnson.
Yeah, at the kickoff of the UFL. Well, guess what? August 2024 at the D23 Expo. That's Disney's expo for fans. A fictionalized version of the motorsport was announced going into production by Walt Disney Pictures and will star Dwayne Johnson. It's all coming together. Marketing genius. And on that, I'm getting goosebumps at this, John. I'm getting goosebumps.
You are the final boss, James.
Always. At that, it's time to end the show. Bye, everybody.
Later.
Bye.
Bye-bye.